You're listening to the Kim D. Snyder Show, episode number 016. In this episode, you will discover how to work less and get more done.
Welcome to the Kim D. Snyder Podcast.
Welcome. I'm your host, Kim. This is a show for business leaders, consultants, and project managers to discover strategies that leverage your expertise, mindset, and innovation for more success, joy, and fun. For the show notes, please go to kimdsnyder.com/016. If you're interested in having me work with leaders in your organization, go to kimdsnyder.com/inquire. And let's get this party started. And this party started about 2 years ago. And I was in a client and I was working too much. And in fact, I was working 50 hours plus. I had no hours for my personal time. I wasn't exercising. I had gained weight. I didn't have any hobbies when I went home. I was too tired when I got home to spend any time with my family or my friends or my husband. And so, I thought, gosh, there has to be something more. What am I doing wrong? I love what I do, but something's got to change. And so I had to figure out why I was working so much. And so I started looking around at what I was doing and, the teams that I was working with at the time. So as a consultant, it was very common for me to travel out every week to a client site, stay in the hotel at the night, and fly back home. And so, I had been doing this at the time, for 20 plus years, right? So I'm 20 plus 2 here at this point. So, I've been doing this for many years. And, a couple of years ago when I was looking at all these decisions, and I had made the decision to really cut back to 40 hours, here's all the things that were going on in my mind. And, I thought, gosh, maybe I'm being really lazy and complacent with my time. Maybe I'm just not as effective. Excuse me. And so, all of us consultants were doing it. And so I thought, well, gosh, maybe there's something I'm not doing wrong or doing right. I was always busy. There's no shortage of work. And, I don't know what role you have, but, take this chance to ask these questions of yourself. Look at your workday. How is it structured? Can you be more efficient or more effective? Can you shorten your time? My first step into this was probably 3-ish years ago. And what I did, I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work at the client site. And then when I'm done, I'll leave and I'll go to the hotel and I won't do any work. Okay, and that sort of worked, right? But then I was leaving the client site at like 7 and 8 o'clock at night. So then I was eating, which I didn't want to eat that late, consistently, because then we're sitting. And so I wasn't always sitting at the client site, but it was a lot of sitting. And so I said, okay, well, that was a good step, but it still didn't solve what I wanted. And I really wanted my time. I wanted my personal time and, to do whatever I wanted to do. And I thought, well, there was like 2 or 3 clients that I had been to, and literally, one of them was in New York because they were catching a bus or train and they couldn't be late. And I was like, I have to leave. I can't be late. I think we were in Atlanta, kind of a similar place. Like, I've got to leave. I can't be late, right? Because if they miss the bus or train, it could be another hour or however. So it was a significant amount of time. And, I've even had clients too that are like, I have to leave because I cannot be late because the daycare is going to ding me. And so, I thought, well, if my clients are doing this, why can't I do this? And, I've always felt, and there's kind of this common knowledge in the consulting world that, we're held to a higher standard for everything. But I also felt I didn't need to be stupid about it, So if a client left on time, why couldn't I leave on time? Couldn't I be more efficient and more effective and smarter about, what I got done? And so all of these things were going on in my head. And then I just decided one day that something was going to change. And so the 3 things that I did, or the one specific thing that I did, was I left to work every day at 6 o'clock. And when I did this a couple years ago, I wasn't fired, I wasn't demoted, I wasn't seen as less by my peers, and I got my personal time back. So let me share with you some of the items and decisions and the guilt that I went through. So the first week of doing this was the toughest week. I remember walking out the door and almost just looking around, seeing if anybody was looking at me, because I felt like I was sneaking out. I felt like I was doing something I shouldn't do. And I don't know if you guys could relate to this, but leaving at 6 o'clock was odd. Like, other people were working. I mean, I had said I was leaving at 6 and I left. And I think because there was a couple calls, but I didn't make any announcements. Like, didn't say, hello, I'm leaving at 6 today and forever. I just did it. And that week was tough. I almost turned around and came back in that day. Ugh, yeah, I said, no, I'm going to stick it, rough it out, stick it up, and let me just see. So I committed to, I was going to do it for 30 days and I would figure out how I felt at the end. And after a couple weeks, I never looked back. So there was no 30-day window for me. And so it was not an easy journey, but you can do it. It took about 2 to 4 weeks. And what really transpired is it really changed my workday. And so, I always thought I was pretty efficient and effective, but I'd really gotten complacent and lazy. And so now what I would do is I would get answers faster, feedback faster, updates faster. I mean, I'd walk to somebody's desk and it was just like, it was easier to say, hey, I'm leaving in a couple hours. I need your update before I leave. Or, that time thing really, really drove me, and I had more urgency. And I would not call myself a slacker or a lollygagger before. I would probably have put me at probably a 7 before, and this probably put me at like a 9. And, it was really nice having that clear time to stop, because I think before it was Parkinson's law, right? So, when you're on a project, again, it doesn't really matter on the role, but you're there together as a team. And you just knew you're going to be there at least 10 or 12 hours. And so the task, filled to that time, right? It's Parkinson's law. So now, all of a sudden, I only had 8 hours to get my stuff done. So there was an urgency. And, there's no shortage of work. It's not like there's things that, just fall off your plate. There's always stuff. But what I really had to do is prioritize everything. So the amount of time I spent on a task and the tasks, and I had to work faster and more efficient with them. I was asking for help more often about, okay, who can take this, who can delegate it? And, as opposed to me, I typically have leadership roles and projects. And so it's typically me taking it on, and I'm not doing that anymore. And, I wish the last couple of years I was doing this prior, but, having a clear stop time and having a clear window to complete things really created that urgency for me, and that really, really, really helped. And so, here's some of the other things that I learned on this path to 40 hours a week. And I'll say it's probably not exactly 40, but I would say I'm probably 40, 44-ish, but I aim for 40, and it might bleed over, and I'm super happy with that because it's not 50 plus, and 50 plus. So decide on where you're doing it. For me, I was super, super clear. I just did not want to be working all the time. I wanted free time to do personal projects, whether it was hobbies or health, more energetic when I got home. My goal was I didn't want to be working all the time. So figure out, what that means for you. I committed to 30 days because it felt really uncomfortable at the beginning, but I wanted to give it enough time that I could get used to it and not feel like that failure and that slacker, and really adjust to it, right? So that definitely those first couple weeks, I was still having the same work patterns, but leaving at 6. So I would say it was not quite as efficient. And then my efficiency caught up when I kind of figured out that, like, you better work within the time. And I didn't announce it to everybody, a couple people, because, they were, I saw the window of like, hey, I'm leaving in a couple hours. If you want to get it to me today, you need to get it. But I didn't go, hello, everybody, I'm leaving at 6. No, I just did it. So now I did share with people later, and that's actually why I'm doing this podcast, because I've had quite a few colleagues in current and past ask me, like, how do you find work-life balance, and how do you, like, you're leaving every day, what's going on, tell me those decisions. And so, that I did, I shared it with them, but I didn't share it with my colleagues at the time. It wasn't really necessary. But the cool thing is if you accept it, others will accept it. So one of my favorite little stories or anecdotes or things happened is when I heard a colleague say, oh, we can't do that because Kim leaves at 6. And I was like, yes, that was awesome. And so I was super happy. Again, I didn't have to make an announcement. They just knew. Now I did use time to drive my decisions, but I accepted it, everybody else accepted it, and it was fine. And just to think that like first few days, I almost turned back around. I'm so glad I didn't. So I still do that now. I still leave at 6 or sometimes 5, depending where I'm at. But super helpful. And then the last thing I'll say is that there may be times that come up. So if you're on a critical project or client or situation, that you may have to adjust those hours, but that should be short term, and that should be an exception basis, not a regular occurrence. And again, I'm very diligent about that. I'm very questioning. I make sure that my time is really protected. So how will you implement this in your life? The action items I have for you to really consider this, and this is not just for consultants. Again, this can be for any role out there. Really spend the time looking about how you want to spend your time for the day, and why do you want to do that? And that's the first question, which is, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to reduce the number of hours? And so figure out your why. The second one is, what is your start date and for how long? So you can pick next Monday, you can pick the 15th of the month, whatever you want to pick it, and then give yourself that 30-day window. And, it could be 30 days, 60 days. You figure out what's going to work for you. The third action item is, what is going to be your scheduled start and stop time every day? Mine was 8 to 6, and I stuck with it. What is your time going to be? And then the fourth and final one is really leave me comments about what has happened for you by doing this. I'm really curious to see the changes in your work style, your lifestyle, and everything. So please share it with me, and please share it with me wherever you're watching or listening to this. The show notes for this episode can be reached at kimdsnyder.com/016. Thanks for listening or watching this show. If you like this show, then please take a couple minutes to leave a review wherever you're consuming it. This helps ensure that others can benefit from this information. It gets in their hands. So if someone in your organization wants training, facilitation, and consulting for your leaders, then let's talk. Go to kimdsnyder.com/inquire. See you in the next episode.